My name is Deborah, and I'm 56 years old. I had worked at the same financial institution for over 27 years. Not a bank exactly, but close enough that people came in daily asking about their investments, credit cards, and yes, how to apply for a loan to buy a little more luxury in their lives. I wasn't a flashy woman. I wore navy skirts and sensible shoes, never missed a day of work, and knew the names of our oldest clients by heart. They trusted me because I cared, because I listened. So when Mr. Colton called me into his office that Thursday morning, I didn't think much of it. "Deborah, close the door," he said, not even looking up from his laptop. I did as I was told, feeling a little off. His voice lacked the usual politeness. "We've decided to make some changes in the branch," he continued. "Restructuring, downsizing, you know how it is." I blinked, standing awkwardly by the chair. "You mean layoffs?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Not quite. Voluntary resignation, severance package, clean and fast." He finally looked up, and I think it would be best. "For you." "For me?" I tried to laugh, but it caught in my throat. "I've been here since before you graduated college." He didn't flinch. "Exactly. Time to enjoy retirement, don't you think?" I stood there, frozen, the edges of my fingers going cold. "I'm not ready to retire. I still need this job." He leaned forward, sliding a stack of papers across the desk. "Sign here. You'll get 3 months' pay and your full benefits for 60 days. "That's generous, Deborah." I didn't touch the papers. "I'm not signing that. I haven't even talked to HR." He cut me off. "This doesn't need to go through HR. We're handling it internally. And if you refuse, we may need to investigate some discrepancies in the mortgage department. Remember those authorizations last quarter?" My stomach dropped. That wasn't a mistake. I'd helped a widowed client keep her home by fast-tracking an approval. I followed protocol, mostly, but I didn't leave a perfect paper trail. "You're threatening me?" He smiled. "I'm offering you a graceful exit." I stared at the pen he pushed toward me. The room was spinning. The soft hum of the air conditioning turned into a roar in my ears. I signed. It felt like betrayal. Of myself. But what I didn't know then, what I'd find out only weeks later, was that I hadn't signed a resignation letter at all. And by the time I discovered the truth, everything in my life had already begun to unravel. After I signed the paper, I walked out of that office as if in a fog. No goodbye party, no flowers, just a pat on the back from Susan at the front desk, who whispered, "You deserved better." I went home to my small brick house, the one I'd worked my whole life to pay off, the one that now felt like a tomb. I didn't tell my daughter right away. She had enough on her plate, raising 2 boys after a bitter divorce. For the first week, I barely moved from the couch. I stared at the television, watching reruns of courtroom dramas, wondering how my life had become one. I thought about the clients I'd helped, retired couples trying to stretch their pensions, young people denied loans because of a bad credit score they didn't even understand. I missed them. I missed feeling useful. Then, 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, no return address. Inside was a copy of the resignation letter I'd signed. Except this version looked different. It had extra pages, pages I had never seen. Attached was a small sticky note. "Check page 4. Look closely at the signature line." I flipped to page 4. That's when I saw it. My name, typed not handwritten, was on a document titled "Voluntary Waiver." of legal claims and confidentiality agreement. It included clauses about data transfers, internal investigations, and, most disturbingly, a section that authorized the use of my login credentials for continued system access. I never authorized any of that. Suddenly, the air felt thick. I reread the note. There was no signature, no hint of who sent it. I tried calling the company's HR department, but my calls went straight to voicemail. My access to the internal portal had been revoked. I sent 3 emails and received no reply. That night, I drove across town to meet Clara. Clara and I had worked together at the bank for 10 years. She had retired last summer after her husband's stroke. I hadn't seen her in months. She opened the door and stared at me. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. "I think I've been used," I replied, holding out the papers. She sat me down in her kitchen and read them silently. After a long pause, she said, "This isn't a resignation letter. This looks like an authorization. They're using your identity, Deborah." "For what?" "I don't know yet, but I have a friend. He used to audit internal systems for financial institutions. He might be able to help." I nodded. "Call him." By the following Friday, I was sitting across from a man named Elias. Gray suit, calm voice, the kind of man who didn't blink when he heard the words fraud or identity misuse. "You didn't resign, Deborah," he said after a single glance at the documents. "You were tricked into signing an access authorization. Your signature is being used to backdate approvals, bypass verification protocols." My stomach turned. "Why me?" "You worked there the longest. You had senior clearance. They needed someone clean to cover their trail." "But I'm not clean anymore, am I?" Elias sighed. "Not in their eyes." After the indictments, the firm collapsed within weeks. Regulators moved in, clients withdrew funds. The branch building, once full of activity, now sat dark and empty behind yellow caution tape. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt responsible. Even though I was a victim, part of me still carried guilt. Guilt for signing that paper, for not asking more questions, for letting fear silence me. But every time I thought of quitting, of disappearing again, someone would knock on my door, like Mrs. Alvarez, who lost her husband last year and nearly lost her home to a fraudulent mortgage renewal. "I read your story," she said, tears in her eyes. "Because of you, I got my house back." Or the young man who found me outside the grocery store. "You helped my mom open her first savings account 10 years ago," he said. "You told her she was stronger than her past. She believed you. I just wanted you to know that." Slowly, something shifted inside me. I started volunteering at a local senior center, helping residents understand their financial documents. Most didn't know what half the terms meant. Many had signed things they didn't understand. "You're doing the Lord's work," one woman told me. "Most of us just need someone to care." One afternoon, Maya joined me. She had taken a new job with a nonprofit focused on protecting financial rights for the elderly. "I want to fight for people like Mr. Jennings," she said. I smiled. "Then you're in the right place." Even Elias, once the mysterious consultant in a gray suit, began giving free workshops at the community center. Our little team, born out of fear, was now building something real, something honest. And as I stood before a group of 20 retirees explaining the dangers of signing without reading, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. Months passed and life began to settle. But one thread remained loose. Colton. No one knew where he had gone. No records, no sightings. His accounts had been frozen, his assets under investigation, but the man himself had disappeared. Until the envelope arrived, no stamp, no address, just my name, handwritten in shaky letters. Inside was a single photo. Colton, sitting at a dock somewhere tropical, a newspaper in his lap, a drink in his hand. On the back, scribbled in ink, "Some of us always land on our feet. Stay out of it." I felt my hands go cold. I brought the photo to Elias. "He's taunting me." "He's warning you," Elias said. "He thinks this is over. He thinks he won." Maya agreed. "We have to find out where he is. If he's spending stolen money, it's only a matter of time before he slips." We worked quietly, carefully, using digital tracking, press contacts, and financial breadcrumbs. Elias traced the photo to a resort known for protecting the wealthy under fake identities. Meanwhile, Clara helped gather sworn statements from former employees who had seen Colton forge approvals. These testimonials, combined with our new discovery, gave the investigators enough to reopen the active manhunt. Then came the call. Interpol confirmed his location. They had him. I stood in my living room, phone to my ear, listening as the agent said, he was arrested at a private villa. He had multiple passports, millions in untraceable crypto, and a list of names we're still sorting through. I hung up and walked to the window. The sun was setting. For the first time in over a year, I breathed without weight in my chest. It didn't take long for the first real consequence to hit me. A certified letter arrived 2 weeks later, marked Urgent Legal Affair. Inside was a notice. I was under preliminary investigation for irregularities related to a series of unsecured business loans approved under my former employee credentials. The loans totaled over $600,000. I sat on the floor, legs folded under me, rereading the letter until the words blurred. My hands trembled. My heart pounded in my chest so hard, I thought I might faint. I didn't approve those loans. I didn't even know the businesses listed. I called Elias. "They're setting me up," I said. "I know," he replied calmly. "They're funneling money, maybe even laundering it, using your name as the fall guy." My voice cracked. "What do I do?" "We expose it, but we need proof. We need someone inside." That's when I remembered Maya. She was young, barely 30, but smart and cautious. We used to have lunch together in the break room. She once told me she never trusted the higher-ups. I found her number in an old notebook and called. "Deborah," she said, surprised. "Maya, I need help. Something bad is happening, and I think you might be the only person left I can trust." There was silence. Then softly, "I knew something was wrong after you left, but I didn't know it was this serious. Can we meet?" We met that night in the parking lot of an old library. Maya brought her work laptop and wore a scarf pulled over her head. "They kept your account active," she said, scrolling through logs. "Even used your clearance last Friday to push through 2 emergency business loans. I couldn't believe it." "Who approved them?" She hesitated. "Colton, and a new name I've never seen before. Ray Marks. He's not even in our system properly. His file looks fake." That's when Elias stepped forward from the shadows of my car. He introduced himself and asked for a copy of everything. Maya looked nervous. "I could lose my job." I took her hand. "Maya, the truth sets us free," I said. "The Bible says, 'The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.' I believe that." She stared at me, then slowly nodded. "Okay. We spent the next 3 days gathering documents. Elias built a timeline. Maya fed us everything she could, without raising suspicion. Then, another blow. Someone broke into my house. They didn't steal the TV. They didn't take my jewelry. They took the envelope that held the original resignation papers. They knew. The break-in shook me more than I expected. Not because of the missing papers, but because it meant I was being watched. Someone had been inside my home. The locks were changed that same night. I installed cameras and moved the backup documents to Clara's house. I didn't sleep much. Every creak in the night made me sit up straight in bed. Meanwhile, Elias uncovered something darker. They're not just laundering money, he told me. They're targeting vulnerable clients, elderly ones without family, moving their funds around under false investments. I gasped. You mean stealing their savings? Yes. And some of the accounts were flagged under your ID. If this explodes and you're not clear by then, you'll be the first name tied to it. I felt sick. That's when Clara did something unexpected. She pulled out a folder from her closet. These are documents from when I retired, she said. They gave me a similar exit letter. I never thought to question it until now. Elias looked at her file. Then he froze. This is the same document Deborah signed, but under a different name, different clauses. They've done this before. That night, as we reviewed timelines and login logs, a pattern emerged. Each time someone resigned, their login was used to authorize suspicious loans within 30 days. And each one was threatened with an internal investigation right before leaving. I wasn't the first, I whispered, just the first to fight back. Maya continued feeding us data, but her tone grew more anxious. They're asking questions. They know someone's snooping around. Stay quiet, I told her. Don't risk yourself. But it was too late. 3 days later, Maya was suspended. No warning, no explanation. They accused me of leaking client data, she told me in tears. But I never sent anything through work email. They're cleaning house, Elias muttered. We need to go public now. I hesitated. If we do, there's no going back. Clara touched my arm. Sometimes you have to walk through the fire to get to freedom, Deborah. I took a deep breath and nodded. All right. Let's burn this whole lie down. We made the decision on a Wednesday. By Thursday morning, Elias had sent an anonymous tip to a respected financial crimes journalist. Within 48 hours, we were meeting in a private office above a coffee shop with a woman named Elise Grant. She had sharp eyes and a notebook that never left her hand. Tell me everything, she said. Names, dates, documents. I'll verify every word before I publish. For 4 hours, we talked. Elise took it all in, silent, focused. When we showed her Maya's logs, Clara's papers, and the altered resignation letter, her jaw clenched. They've done this before, more than once, she murmured, and they've gotten away with it every time. We left that meeting hopeful, but cautious. Then came Sunday morning. I was on my way to church. The sun was just rising when I noticed the car. It followed me through 3 turns. I stopped by a gas station. It parked across the street. My hands trembled as I called Elias. They're watching me. Stay calm. Go inside. You're not alone anymore. That afternoon, Elise called. Her voice was urgent. They're trying to discredit you. An anonymous source sent me a file accusing you of financial misconduct 10 years ago. My knees went weak. That never happened. I know. I checked. It's a forged report. They're trying to scare you. I sat down in my kitchen, gripping the table. I don't want to be afraid anymore. Elisa's voice softened. Then don't be. The story runs tomorrow morning. Full names, full timeline, and it did. Headline: Bank scandal, retired employee framed in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Within hours, the story went viral. Clients demanded answers. Former employees came forward. More resignation letters surfaced. By evening, I got a call from someone I never expected. "Deborah, it's Colton." I didn't speak. "You don't know what you've done. You've ruined lives." I whispered, "No. I've exposed them." His voice turned cold. "You should have stayed quiet." And then he hung up. That night, I sat in the dark, watching the news scroll across the bottom of the screen. Federal investigation launched into local banking firm. Tears filled my eyes. I wasn't invisible anymore. The following weeks were chaos. Investigators reached out to me directly. I met with them twice, once at their office, once at my home. They asked for every email, every document, every memory I could provide. Maya's suspension was lifted. She returned to work, but under strict security review. Clara was contacted by a team of auditors to verify her version of events. And Colton? He vanished. One day, he was still giving orders inside that marble-walled office. The next, his office was sealed, and his personal email shut down. Rumors said he'd fled the country, but I didn't care where he went. I cared about the people he hurt. One of them was Mr. Jennings. He was 83, a soft-spoken widower who used to bring me honey from his backyard bees. He came to my house unannounced one morning, holding the newspaper in his trembling hands. "Deborah," he said, his voice cracking. "They emptied my retirement account." I invited him in, made him tea, and called Elias right away. "They used your name to move his funds into a fake investment shell," Elias confirmed after reviewing the case. "He's one of many." Mr. Jennings broke down. "That was all I had for my daughter's surgery for the rest of my life." I held his hand and whispered, "They won't get away with this." The next week, the federal investigators issued formal indictments. Ray Marks was arrested first. Turns out he never existed in any HR system. He was a front, a proxy. 3 other high-level names followed. The media swarmed our neighborhood, but I kept quiet. Let the truth speak louder than my fear. One night, Clara brought over a small, worn Bible. "Open to Psalm 37?" she said. I read aloud, "Do not fret because of evildoers, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb." I looked up, tears in my eyes. I never thought I'd see justice. Clara nodded. "But it came, because you didn't run." I sat still for a long time after she left. For once, my home felt safe again. The trial began 6 weeks later. Colton was escorted into the courtroom in handcuffs, flanked by guards. He looked thinner, grayer, but his eyes were the same, sharp, calculating, unrepentant. I was called to testify on the second day. Walking to the stand, I could feel every eye on me. The room was silent as I swore my oath. The prosecutor guided me gently. "Ms. Lane, do you recognize this document?" I nodded. "That's the paper I was forced to sign." "And did you know it was not a resignation letter?" I believed I was resigning. He leaned forward. "When did you discover the truth?" "When I received a copy from an anonymous source and realized I had been used to authorize fraudulent activity." Colton didn't flinch, but I turned to face him anyway. "You threatened me," I said. "You thought I'd stay silent, but You forgot something. He raised an eyebrow, amused. I believe in something greater than you. The room was still. I turned back to the jury. There's a verse that says, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." That valley, it wasn't just about fear. It was about fighting back when evil thought it had already won. My voice didn't shake. The courtroom murmured. Even the judge paused before calling the next witness. Elias testified next, then Maya, then Clara. It took 2 weeks, but the jury came back with a unanimous verdict. Guilty. Colton was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison. Several others received similar terms. As they were led away, I felt no triumph, just peace. Justice had been done, and the woman who walked out of that courtroom wasn't the same one who had been bullied into silence. She was stronger. She was free. It's been a year since the verdict. My days look different now. I still live in the same small brick house, but it no longer feels like a tomb. The curtains are open. The garden is blooming again. Every Tuesday, I teach financial literacy at the Senior Center. I help people understand their investments, spot red flags in credit card offers, and know their rights when dealing with banks or loans. Maya now leads a national initiative for ethical banking reform. Clara writes articles for retirement planning magazines. Elias became a permanent advisor to nonprofits fighting financial abuse. And me? I'm just Deborah. But people still knock on my door. Sometimes they bring cookies, sometimes questions, sometimes tears. And every time I open the door with the same quiet strength I once thought I'd lost. One Sunday afternoon, Mr. Jennings brought over a box of honey jars. "For you," he said, "and for your courage." I smiled. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. He nodded slowly. Still, you lit the match. Later that night, I sat on my porch, Bible in hand, and whispered a quiet prayer. Thank you for letting me fall just far enough to learn how to rise. I've learned that not all battles are fought with fists. Some are fought with truth, with faith, with resilience. And the greatest wealth isn't in banks or inheritance or luxury. It's in standing tall when the world tries to bend you. It's in hearing a knock on the door and choosing to answer it with love, not fear. This was never just about me. It was about everyone who's ever been silenced. And now it's their turn to speak.